Jack Reed stepped carefully over the crumbled stones of the ancient alien temple. The blue light from his helmet cast eerie shadows on the walls. These ruins were older than human history, left by a race nobody knew. As part of the Survey Team 6, Jack was used to exploring strange places, but something about this site made his skin tingle. Base, this is Reed. I'm about 200 meters in. The structure goes deeper than we thought, he said into his comm unit. Only static answered him. The thick walls of the ruins must be blocking his signal. Jack sighed and kept moving forward. His job was to map this section before the sun set on this strange planet. The team called it Xerxes, though it had no official name yet. The passage opened into a large round room. Strange symbols covered the walls, glowing faintly with a greenish light. Jack had never seen anything like them before. He took out his scanner and began recording the markings. This is amazing, he whispered to himself. The symbols seemed to pulse, almost as if alive. Jack reached out, his curiosity getting the better of his training. His fingers brushed against one of the glowing marks. The floor beneath him shook. Dust and small stones fell from the ceiling. Jack stumbled back, but it was too late. The entrance he had come through sealed shut with a grinding sound of stone against stone. The other doorways around the room closed just as quickly. No, no, no! Jack rushed to the sealed entrance, pulling at the rocks with his hands. They wouldn't budge. He was trapped. His heart raced as he tried to control his panic. He had air for 3 days in his suit. The team would come looking when he didn't report back. But would they find him? Would they even be able to open these alien doors? As his eyes adjusted to the darkness, Jack noticed something strange. The symbols on the walls were glowing brighter now, pulsing in a pattern. They were reacting to something. To him? Then he saw it, a pedestal in the center of the room he hadn't noticed before. On it sat a small cube, glowing with the same green light as the symbols. What are you? Jack approached the cube carefully. His scanner showed no dangerous radiation or energy readings. Following his gut, Jack picked up the cube. The moment his gloved hand touched it, the room filled with blinding light. Jack shielded his eyes. When he could see again, the walls had changed. They were now transparent, showing what looked like stars and galaxies swirling around him. And he wasn't alone anymore. 2 figures stood before him, tall and graceful. They were clearly not human, with skin that shimmered like polished metal and eyes that glowed like distant suns. They were identical in every way, twins, Jack realized. Despite their alien appearance, they were beautiful in a way that made Jack's breath catch. They wore armor that seemed to be made of the same material as the ruins, marked with the same glowing symbols. Each carried a staff that hummed with energy. One of them stepped forward and spoke. Jack's translator struggled for a moment before converting the words. Human, it said, voice melodic yet strong. You have awakened the guardians of Xerxes. After 10,000 years of sleep, we rise again. Jack stood frozen, the cube still clutched in his hand, as he realized his simple mapping mission had just become something much more complicated and dangerous. I didn't mean to wake you, Jack said, his voice shaking. He slowly lowered the cube, but kept it in his hand. I'm just an explorer. My team is studying these ruins. The twins looked at each other, their glowing eyes communicating silently. The second guardian stepped forward. I am Rin, she said. This is my sister, Era. We are the last of the Luminar. This temple was our final outpost before the darkness came. Jack's mind raced. He was talking to aliens from an ancient civilization. His discovery would change everything humans knew about intelligent life in the universe. What darkness? He asked. Era pointed to the walls, where the star map showed a black void spreading across what looked like a galaxy. The Void Eaters, she said. They consume worlds, stars, light itself. Our people fought them for 1,000 years before we fell. We placed guardians like us in temples across the stars, waiting for the day they might return. Jack swallowed hard. And you think they're coming back? Ren nodded. The cube you hold is a beacon. It would not have activated unless the Void Eaters were stirring again. Jack looked down at the small green cube in his hand. It seemed too small to be so important. The cube chose you, Era said, studying Jack with curious eyes. This has never happened before. Always, it was meant to call to one of our kind. I'm just human, Jack said. From Earth. We've only been traveling between stars for about 100 years. The twins circled Jack, their armor making soft musical sounds as they moved. They were at least 7 feet tall, towering over him. Yet you carry old power, Ren said, touching Jack's shoulder. A spark jumped between them, making Jack jump back. Your kind has potential we did not see, Era added. Perhaps this is why the cube called to you. Suddenly, a deep rumble shook the temple. Dust fell from the ceiling, and cracks appeared in the floor. The star map on the walls flickered, showing a dark shadow moving toward their location. They know we are awake, Ren said, her voice urgent. We must move quickly. Era went to the far wall and pressed her hand against the symbol. A hidden door slid open, revealing a passage downward. Human Jack, you have 2 choices, she said. Return to the surface and your people, or come with us to the heart of the temple. If you leave, you will be safe for now, but your world will fall when the Void Eaters come. If you stay, you risk everything, but might save your people. Jack thought of his team waiting above. He should warn them. But something told him these guardians were his only chance to understand the true danger. My name is Jack Reed, he said, straightening his shoulders. And I'm coming with you. The twins nodded in approval. Ren handed him a small metal band. Place this on your wrist. It will help you understand our technology. Jack slipped on the band. It tightened automatically, glowing with the same green light as the cube. Now we descend, Era said, leading the way into the dark passage. To the weapons our people left behind. The passage spiraled down into darkness. Jack followed the twin guardians, their armor giving off enough light to see. His wristband tingled against his skin, and suddenly he could read the symbols on the walls. This is amazing, Jack said, touching the markings. The band is translating everything. It does more than translate, Ren said without looking back. It connects you to the temple's systems. The deeper we go, the more you will understand. The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. Jack gasped at the sight. Dozens of sleek ships sat in rows, each one barely larger than a car but shaped like arrowheads. Above them, the ceiling was a perfect map of the galaxy, with thousands of tiny lights showing stars and planets. Your fleet, Jack whispered. What remains of it? Era said. These are scout ships, not warships. Our final defense was to scatter and hide, to wait for the right moment to strike back. Jack walked between the ships, running his hand along their smooth surfaces. They were warm to the touch, as if alive. Why did the cube choose me? I'm not a warrior. I'm a scientist, Jack said. Ren pointed to the cube still clutched in Jack's hand. The beacon does not seek warriors. It seeks those who can understand. The Void Eaters cannot be fought with weapons alone. They must be understood to be defeated. A loud bang echoed from above, making them all look up. Something was trying to break through the sealed doors. Your team? Era asked. Jack shook his head. They wouldn't make that much noise. They tried to contact me first. The twins exchanged worried glances. Then the hunters have found us already, Ren said. They always come first, before the Void Eaters themselves. Jack's wristband suddenly flashed red. Images filled his mind, creatures made of shadow, with too many limbs and eyes that swallowed light. What was that? He asked, shaking his head to clear the vision. The temple is showing you our enemies, Era explained. The band connects to your mind. It will teach you what you need to know. Another crash from above, closer now. Dust rained from the ceiling. We have no time, Ren said. She moved to one of the scout ships and placed her hand on it. The ship hummed to life, a door sliding open in its side. Human Jack, your choice has come sooner than we thought. We must leave this place now. Jack thought of his team above. I can't just leave my people. They don't know what's coming. If you stay, you will die, Era said bluntly. If you come with us, we may find a way to save them all. The wristband flashed again, and Jack saw Earth surrounded by shadow. Then he saw the same shadow-eating Xerxes, spreading across the stars like a disease. Will these ships take us back to my base? Jack asked. These ships can take us anywhere in the galaxy, Ren said. But once we leave, the hunters will follow. Jack looked at the cube in his hand, then at the star map above. Whatever was happening, he was part of it now. I need to warn my people first, he said firmly. Then we go wherever we need to. The twins nodded in agreement as another crash shook the chamber. We have minutes, not hours, Ren said, her voice tense. She touched a panel on the ship's side, and a strange weapon extended from within. She grabbed it, and tossed a similar one to her sister. Can I contact my team from here? Jack asked. Aaron nodded and pointed to a crystal console near the wall. Place your hand there. The band will connect you. Jack pressed his palm against the cold crystal. Instantly, his comm unit crackled to life. Base, this is Reed. Do you copy? Emergency situation. After a moment of static, a voice answered. Reed! Where have you been? We've been trying to reach you for hours. Listen carefully, Jack said. I found something big down here. Ancient aliens called the Luminar. And there's a threat coming. A deafening crash cut him off. Part of the ceiling collapsed on the far side of the chamber. Through the falling debris, Jack saw figures moving, dark, shifting shapes that seemed to bend the light around them. The hunters, Era hissed, raising her weapon. Reed? What's happening? The voice on the comm asked. Evacuate immediately, Jack shouted. Get everyone off planet. There's a hostile force. The connection cut off as a hunter leaped across the chamber toward them. Ren fired her weapon. A beam of green energy shot out, hitting the hunter. The creature screeched, a sound that made Jack's teeth hurt, and dissolved into black smoke. More hunters poured through the hole in the ceiling. They moved like liquid shadow, sometimes on 2 legs, sometimes on 4 or more. Their eyes glowed red in faces that kept changing shape. Get in the ship! Era shouted, firing at 3 hunters at once. Jack ran toward the open scout ship, but stopped. The cube! I need to. You already have it! Ren called as she backed toward the ship, firing continuously. Jack looked down. The cube was gone from his hand, but his wristband now glowed with the same green light. Somehow, the cube had merged with the band. He jumped into the ship, followed quickly by the twins. The door sealed behind them. Inside was surprisingly spacious, with 3 seats facing a transparent front wall. The controls seemed to be made of the same crystal as the console outside. Your people have been warned, Era said, sliding into one of the seats. We must go now. Can we pick up my team first? Jack asked desperately. Ren touched the crystal controls. Images appeared, showing the surface above. Jack saw his team's transport ships already lifting off. They heard your warning, she said. But the hunters will follow them if we don't draw them away. Jack nodded, understanding the choice. Then let's go. The ceiling of the chamber began to split open, revealing the night sky of Xerxes. The scout ship hummed louder, lifting off the ground. Hunters swarmed around them, clawing at the ship's hull. They cannot penetrate this ship's shields, Ren assured him. But once we break atmosphere, larger hunters will come. The ship shot upward through the opening, faster than any human craft Jack had ever been in. The ruins shrank below them, and Jack saw dozens of shadow creatures pouring out of the ground. Where are we going? Jack asked, watching his planet's base grow distant. To find the other Guardians, Era said. If any still live. As they broke through the clouds, Jack saw something massive moving in orbit around Xerxes, a darkness that blotted out the stars. What is that thing? Jack whispered, staring at the massive shadow entity. It was like a hole cut into space itself, stretching miles across. A void feeder, Ren said, her voice tight. Not a full eater yet, but growing. It feeds on energy, life, light, anything it can consume. The scout ship accelerated, turning away from the dark mass. On the crystal display, Jack saw his team's ships taking off in the opposite direction. Good. They were heading back toward Earth space. Your people have a chance, Era said, noticing his gaze. The feeders are slow to move between systems. If your world prepares now, they might find a way to defend themselves. The ship shuddered as something hit them from behind. A warning symbol flashed across the display. Hunter ships, Ren growled. They've evolved since our time. Jack's wristband suddenly grew warm. Knowledge flowed into his mind, ship systems, weapons, navigation. Without thinking, he reached forward and touched one of the crystal controls. A rear view appeared, showing 3 dark, jagged ships in pursuit. How did you know to do that? Era asked, surprised. The band, it's teaching me, Jack said. He touched another crystal, and a weapon system activated. I can help fight. The twins exchanged looks. The beacon has never shared knowledge this way before, Ren said. Your mind must be compatible in ways we didn't expect. Jack focused on the weapons display. He targeted the nearest hunter's ship and fired. A pulse of green energy shot back, hitting the ship. It wobbled but kept coming. They've adapted to our weapons, Era said grimly. She took the controls and sent their ship diving toward a nearby moon. We need to lose them before we can jump to deep space. The ship rocketed around the cratered surface of the moon, weaving between tall rock formations. The hunter ships followed, firing black energy bolts that dissolved anything they touched. Jack's mind raced with new information from the band. The ship's energy signature, he said suddenly. We need to change it. What do you mean? Ren asked. Your technology uses a specific energy pattern. They track that. But human tech uses something completely different. Jack pointed to his scanner, still attached to his belt. If we can mix the signals. Understanding dawned on the twins' faces. Era nodded. It might work. No Luminar ever tried combining with another species' technology. Jack connected his scanner to the crystal console. The wristband guided him, showing him how to modify the ship's energy field. The ship's lights flickered, then changed from green to a blue-green color. Now, Ren said, taking the controls. She cut all propulsion, letting their ship drop into a deep crater. The hunter's ships shot past overhead, seemingly losing track of them. It worked, Jack said, watching the display as the enemy ships circled in confusion. They can't see us anymore. Remarkable, Era said, studying Jack with new respect. Your species has potential we never imagined. We're survivors, Jack said simply. We adapt. The ship hummed back to life, this time with minimal power. They slipped away from the moon, keeping low and slow until they reached the dark side. We have a small window to jump before they find us again, Ren said. Are you ready, human Jack? Jack looked back at Xerxes one last time, thinking of his team, his mission, his old life. Then he nodded. Where are we going? He asked. To the 7th spiral arm, Era replied. There's a Luminar outpost there, if it still exists. We need allies if we're going to fight what's coming. The stars on the display elongated as the ship jumped to speeds Jack had never thought possible. 3 days of faster-than-light travel passed in what felt like hours to Jack. The ship's systems kept him in a semi-sleep state, while his mind absorbed knowledge from the wristband. He learned the history of the Luminar, their 1,000-year war with the Void Eaters, and the desperate plan to hide Guardians throughout the galaxy. When they finally slowed, Jack saw a massive asteroid field surrounding a small blue star. The outpost is hidden within the largest asteroid, Ren explained as she guided the ship through the floating rocks. If it still exists. What if it doesn't? Jack asked. Then we are the last, Era said simply. The ship approached an asteroid the size of a small moon. Its surface looked barren, but as they drew closer, Jack's wristband pulsed. A section of the rock face shimmered and disappeared, revealing an entrance. It's still here, Ren whispered, relief clear in her voice. They landed inside a vast hangar similar to the one they had left behind, but much larger. Dozens of ships sat in neat rows. And there were people, or rather, beings that looked like the twins, moving about with purpose. More of your kind, Jack said as they exited their ship. I thought you said you might be the last. We feared we were, Era replied. This is unexpected. A group of Luminar approached, led by a tall figure with armor more elaborate than the twins. They stopped, staring at Jack with open surprise. You bring a human to our sanctuary? The leader asked, voice cold. This human carries the beacon, Ren said, pointing to Jack's wristband. It chose him. Murmurs spread through the gathered aliens. The leader stepped forward, examining Jack closely. Impossible. No species but ours can bond with the beacon. Jack held up his wrist. Well, I did. And it's been teaching me about your people, your war. The Void Eaters are back, and they're heading toward my homeworld. The leader touched Jack's wristband. A pulse of energy passed between them, and the alien stepped back, eyes wide. The beacon has given him knowledge meant only for the final guardians, the leader said. This changes everything. What does that mean? Jack asked. It means, human Jack, Era explained, that you are part of the final defense plan our ancestors created. Something they never told even us about. The leader nodded. Your species was known to our ancestors. They visited your world long ago, when humans were still primitive. They saw potential in you, a resilience, a creativity that our kind lacks. They left markers in your genetic code, dormant until needed. You're saying humans were engineered? Jack asked, stunned. Not engineered. Guided, Ren corrected. Small changes to help you develop certain traits. The ability to adapt quickly, to think in ways we cannot. The leader gestured for them to follow. Come. We have little time. The Void Eaters move faster now, and your Earth will be among their first targets. They sense the potential in your kind, just as our ancestors did. As they walked deeper into the asteroid base, Jack saw displays showing fleet movements, star maps, and battle plans. How many of you are there? He asked. 12,000, the leader replied. Not enough to win a direct war. But with the right strategy, with what you bring us, perhaps enough to survive. Jack touched his wristband, feeling its warm pulse. What exactly do I bring you? The leader stopped before a massive door marked with symbols Jack now recognized as meaning. Salvation and rebirth. The key to our salvation, and yours, the leader said, as the massive doors began to open,